Have you ever wondered, what if everything you've been told about the rapture was incomplete? What if the truth has been in the Bible all along, but almost everyone overlooked it? Today, we're not just going to talk about prophecy. We're going to uncover a story that has been unfolding silently, right before our eyes. And once you hear it, you may never look at your faith the same way again. Most Christians are waiting for the rapture, as if it will be the great, dramatic scene from a movie. Trumpets shaking the heavens, skies splitting apart, and the whole world gasping in shock. But what if I told you that image might be leading millions into a dangerous misunderstanding? For years, churches have taught us to expect a spectacular sign, a cosmic announcement that cannot be missed. But what if the Bible was already telling us something very different? What if the sequence of events is not as we imagined? And what if this misunderstanding could cost people their very souls? Think about it for a moment. Imagine waiting for a thunderous alarm clock to wake you up, yet the true signal was a whisper in the night. You were asleep, the whisper passed by, and when you finally opened your eyes, it was too late. This isn't just a theological debate. It's not about which preacher is right or wrong. This is a matter of life, of eternity. The scriptures have always spoken of the order of events in the last days, but our expectations, our hunger for spectacle, may have blinded us. What if the rapture isn't the first visible event at all? What if it has already begun? Not with fireworks in the sky, but with a quiet stirring in the hearts of those who are awake. What if the real separation isn't about who's sitting in the pews, but about whose spirit is truly aligned with God? The Bible has always shown us a pattern. God moves in ways the world does not expect. Noah built the ark long before the flood. Lot was taken out before the fire fell. And Jesus himself said, "Watch, for you do not know the hour." But how can you watch if you're looking in the wrong direction? Let's be honest. Many believers are obsessed with end-time theories, charts, signs, predictions, when the wars will come, who the Antichrist will be, which blood moon matters most. But in all that noise, have we lost sight of the true order that Jesus, Paul, and John clearly laid out? The tragedy is this. In our hunger for signs, we forgot the structure of the plan. And when you ignore the plan, you risk missing the very event you've been waiting for. Imagine showing up at a wedding after the doors are already closed. The music is still playing inside. The lamps are still burning, but you're left outside in the darkness. That's what Jesus warned about in the parable of the 10 virgins. Some had oil, some didn't. And by the time the call came, the chance to prepare was gone. I know this may sound unsettling. It challenges everything we thought we knew. But maybe that's the point. God doesn't just want us informed. He wants us awakened. And the first step to awakening is realizing that maybe, just maybe, we've been waiting for the wrong thing. So what if the rapture isn't about a cosmic spectacle? What if it's about the alignment of the heart, the quiet dividing line that has already begun? And what if you could already be part of it, without even realizing? That's what we're going to uncover together. In the next part, we'll walk to the timeline that Jesus, Paul, and John revealed, not the version that culture or Hollywood has fed us, but the one the Bible has quietly declared all along. Once you see it, you'll understand why so many are confused, and why the truth has never been more urgent than right now. Stay with me, because what comes next could awaken your spirit like never before. When Jesus began to walk among the people, the air itself seemed to change. Ordinary days suddenly carried whispers of the extraordinary. In villages along the Sea of Galilee, mothers spoke of healings. Fishermen told stories of nets overflowing with fish, and weary travelers passed along rumors that a new teacher had come, not just with words, but with power. Yet if you looked closely, you would see that his power was never displayed as a performance. Instead, it was always wrapped in compassion. To the blind man who could not see the sun rise, Jesus became the very light. To the woman cast aside by society, he became dignity restored. To the brokenhearted, he became hope in flesh. But what made him so different? After all, in those days, there were many voices claiming to have truth, many leaders shouting for loyalty. The difference was this: Jesus did not come to demand allegiance with threats. He came to invite hearts with love. When he spoke, crowds leaned in closer, not because his voice thundered like the priests, but because his words pierced straight into the soul. You have heard it said. He would begin, quoting familiar laws and traditions. Then, in a way no one had dared before, he would add, "But I say to you," imagine sitting there, hearing those words for the first time. It was not rebellion, it was revelation. He wasn't tearing down the law. He was fulfilling it, showing its true purpose. He took commandments carved in stone and engraved them on human hearts. People left his teachings both shaken and strangely comforted. For the first time, they felt seen, not just as rule breakers to be judged, but as children to be loved. Of course, miracles were impossible to ignore. The lame walked, the deaf heard, bread multiplied in the hands of those who had nothing. But if you asked those who witnessed it, the miracles were never the most astonishing part. What truly stunned people was how personal those moments were. Jesus looked into the eyes of those society had dismissed, the leper, the sinner, the outcast, and instead of turning away, he touched them. He entered their stories. He restored their dignity before healing their bodies. And here lies the heart of it. The miracles weren't simply displays of divine power. They were signs pointing to something greater, a kingdom not made by human hands, where every broken thing would one day be made whole. But this message was dangerous. You see, in a land crushed under Roman rule, the people longed for a warrior king, someone who would lead a revolt, break chains with swords, and restore Israel's glory. Instead, Jesus spoke of a kingdom not of this world. He described mustard seeds growing into shelter for all. He told of treasures in heaven that moth and rust could not destroy. He declared that the last would be first, and the meek would inherit the earth. This was not the revolution people expected. It was one far deeper, an overthrow of fear, pride, and hatred within the human heart. And of course, such a message could not go unnoticed by those in power. Religious leaders saw their authority challenged. Roman officials grew uneasy at the crowds gathering around him. There were whispers in dark corners, meetings behind closed doors. Plots began to form. For while the common people hung on his words, those whose status depended on control saw him as a threat that could not be tolerated. Still, Jesus pressed on. He healed on the Sabbath, even when it angered the teachers of the law. He dined with tax collectors, even when it offended the righteous. He touched the untouchable, loved the unlovable, and in doing so, exposed the hollow hearts of those who claimed to speak for God. At last, the journey turned toward Jerusalem. The city was alive with pilgrims preparing for Passover, a festival that celebrated deliverance, freedom from slavery in Egypt. The timing could not have been more significant. As Jesus entered the city, crowds waved palm branches and shouted, "Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." To them, this was the arrival of their long-awaited king. Yet Jesus rode not on a war horse, but on a humble donkey. It was a picture of peace, not conquest. Still, hope surged through people. Perhaps this was the moment their suffering would end. Perhaps now, everything would change. And indeed, everything was about to change, but not in the way they expected. In Jerusalem, Jesus went straight to the temple. There, he overturned the tables of money changers, declaring, "My Father's house shall be called a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves." The tension grew sharper with each passing day. He spoke in parables that unmasked hypocrisy. He warned of coming judgment. He pointed people not to rituals, but to relationship with God. Every word, every action drew a line sharper in the sand. The crowds marveled. The leaders plotted, and heaven itself seemed to hold its breath. Then came the night of Passover. In a quiet upper room, away from the noise of the city, Jesus gathered his closest followers. The table was set with familiar food, bread, wine, the bitter herbs of remembrance. Yet what he did that night was anything but ordinary. He took the bread, broke it, and said, "This is my body, given for you." He lifted the cup and declared, "This is my blood, poured out for forgiveness of sins." They did not yet understand, but one day they would see this was not just a meal. It was a covenant. It was love made visible in the breaking and the pouring. And as the meal ended, the shadow of betrayal crept closer. For even among his friends, there was one who would choose silver over loyalty. Later, Under the moonlight of Gethsemane, Jesus prayed. His disciples, heavy with sleep, could not keep watch. Alone, he fell to the ground and whispered words that revealed both his humanity and his divinity. "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." Here was the turning point. The King of Heaven, who could call down legions of angels, chose instead the path of surrender. The weight of the world seemed pressed on his shoulders, and still he chose love. And soon footsteps approached. Torches flickered in the night. A kiss marked the betrayal, and the road to the cross began.